Hey everybody, it's Libby again with the Profit Flywheel for recruiting. And today we're going to cover retained. And this is one of the most important elements to owning a business is retaining our employees. And how do we retain them? What are we looking at? What are some of the key influences that help retain them? So again, we just covered some previous videos. We just covered commit. They committed through the onboarding process, that probation period. And today we're going to jump into retain for culture. And as I set up the screen, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself real fast?
Yeah. So I am Chris, the CTO of WootRecruit, Chief Technical Officer. I am everything to do with systems and making sure that that engine runs smoothly so that the right processes are in front of the right people at the right time.
Awesome. So we covered all these impressions from clicks to scheduled interviews to showed interviews. And this is, the last step that we have where it's retain. How do I now, I did all this work and now I want to keep them and I want to retain them for culture, right? That's the only reason we keep people. I mean, money could be one, but they're not necessarily an A player if they're just staying for money, right? They're not helping the company grow. And that's okay. We're going to have those people at different times or periods, but we need to retain them for culture, for growth, right? For consistency, for alignment. And we're going to dive into what is retain and why is it so important? Well, the definition of retain is retention of employees who align with the company's culture and values, including, good culture fits. And this is the key to business. This is like, what we all think of and strive of. And this is like what it looks like on the other side of the rainbow. Why is it important? Well, retaining for culture secures, right, that we're going to have a great and positive work environment. Great and positive. Like how many of us have been in the place where we freaking hate our companies? Mm-hmm. We hate them. It's chaos. We don't even know how we ended up with some of the people on our team. Like there's misalignment. They're working against us, not with us.
Yeah.
And we've all been there. Like, and it's not a fun place to be. But when you start putting culture at the forefront, I mean, it changes so much. And here's the sad part is it doesn't matter if you like them or not. It doesn't matter if they're a good technician. It doesn't matter. It matters if they're a culture fit. I mean, I've had to fire people this year that I just thought were super nice people. And it hurt my feelings. But it wasn't about me. It was about the company.
Yeah.
And so, this is important because this really affects our bottom line, guys. It affects our service, the quality of our service, how our employees treat our customers. You no longer need a customer retention program. If you have great people, those great people are going to take care of your customers.
Yes.
And so this is like everything when it comes to business. And what are some influencing factors that can really contribute to the retention of keeping those people for culture and values? Not just keeping them, keeping people that have the right culture and values.
Yeah. So circling back real quick to the retention, this is where really your company, the results are exponential, either positively or negatively. But this is where things start to become exponential because if you start to have that poor retention, it starts to spiral out of control on, like you just said, the customer side, other employees' perceptions, a bad seed,
or you hate your own
even
company.
Your own company.
Like you hate your own company. I mean, how many of us have been there before?
Yeah, and it could even influence the reactions and the emotions that are passed down to the interviewee. So again, this step it's exponential. I just want to put that out there right now.
It's like the one thing that almost fixes everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So some key factors are culture alignment, right? We have to ensure that all of our employees resonate with the company's culture from the start. And, why is it important? Well, we all know why it's important, but how do you do that? Well, I talked about this in a prior video. First, you got to know what your culture is. I was lost for a long time. I didn't even know. I had values and I was like, what was the culture? What were we trying to do? And so until I could sit down and really get super detailed with that, it's hard for me to hire anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a great start for the owner is to really just take some time and figure out what is the culture of our company. What are our values? What is our mission? What is our vision? And if you haven't read the book, Vivid Vision, I highly recommend it.
Yes.
Love Cam and Harold. But it's a huge thing for an owner to do, but it's the best thing that you could ever do for your business. Mm-hmm. Anything on that one? Cultural alignment?
Really, this is the dating phase is like that honeymoon phase is over. Yeah. With that dating. And so what you have is, again, that natural culture or that net culture, as we say, really taking effect. And is that still true for them? Does it still feel right after that honeymoon phase?
Yep. And the next one is value fit. So this might sound repetitive, but we have to ensure that not just the employees embody and uphold that culture fit. You have to make sure you're doing it too. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about it? Is it everything that you talk about? Is it like every Friday we do like a video and I always end with the values. Like we talk about the values. You can't just put them on the wall and expect them to live and embody those values. You, the owner, the office has to eat, live, and breathe those values. And if you're not, then maybe those aren't your values. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say sit down and take a moment to really grasp what they are. Because it's not just about the employees embodying them and upholding them. It's about the company itself, the owner, and the office staff as well.
Yeah. And those values too, think of it as like the absolute truth. And if you break one of those truths, does it take away from that and kill your retention? Because again, you haven't upholded those core values based on what they expected from you.
Yeah. And we have another key that we'll get into, but what if you break one of those core values? What happens, right? So we'll hit that one here in a minute, but clear communication, this is huge, huge. Clear communication. I cannot say it enough. You have to maintain open and transparent communication. You have to. What is your communication cadence? What is your communication rhythm? What can your employees, field staff, or office expect from you or the company as far as communication? Mm-hmm. Is it just when there's something wrong? Is it when I feel like it? Like, what is the communication cadence or rhythm so that you can maintain open and honest conversations, right? Open and honest channels.
Yeah. And I will say this is a hard one because you may provide opportunities for clear communication or you do it yourself, but without certain things in place, it might not encourage people to...
They won't engage
or be open. And so there might still be this glass wall in front of you that you don't see that could be affecting your retention. And it's putting certain things in place that help to break down that wall so that you can keep people long-term and get them more engaged and connected.
Yes. And for my owners, the first thing I would do is lead by example. In all of my companies, everyone knows that I overly share. Like I probably overly communicate. They're probably like, oh my God, this girl won't stay out of everything. And I'm not micromanaging, but I over communicate and I'm involved. And so you try to lead by example to open up that door so that they feel more comfortable, because in most companies, just be quiet and do your job. Mm-hmm. I don't really care how you feel or communication.
And I'm going to call you boss.
And if you call me boss in my company, I'll be like, excuse me, no, I hate that word. So it's one of those things. How do you do that? And it's important because it helps with managing expectations and reducing miscommunication. Most issues are caused by either lack of education or miscommunication.
So I want to give you a little piece here, and it's, anger comes from frustration, and frustration comes from a lack of understanding, and that lack of understanding is not having that clear communication.
Yes, great example, Chris. Next one is ongoing engagement. I will say, when we first started, we were guilty of this. Man, we hired you, we trained you, we onboarded you, and then we forgot you existed because we're doing it again with another person. Mm-hmm. And so how do you keep ongoing engagement going? My tip is the same thing with your communication cadence. Have rhythms to your engagement, to your meetings. Have cadences to your meetings. What are they? How often are they? Have them organized, have them scheduled so your employees know what to expect. Right? Because we have to continuously engage with them in a meaningful way, right? That really helps with that retention and recognition of those employees.
Yeah. And I think this step especially is, letting go too soon and just saying, good luck. I have done that too many times in the past, so I'm taking it from firsthand experience. That ongoing engagement is huge. And it's even going through, creating softer bumpers in your company so that there's those touch points that are, it's easy to come by, but it's not too much.
So where a lot of people struggle with this one is, this is where it takes a level of organization that maybe a lot of people struggle with. And if you have an office manager doing that ongoing engagement, don't expect them to be organized. You have to help them. You have to set them up for success. What you set the rhythm of the meeting cadence is. You set what the expectations are, and then let them run with it. But you can't expect, because this takes a level of organization. What are they going to do? How often? When? How? Zoom, in person, one-to-ones, group engagements, fun engagements, educational. What are they? I think the owner should be setting them because that's part of the culture. And then once they're set, those expectations are set. When you hand it off to your office manager or your hiring manager, they're going to need help to organize that within their day. Because it's not going to just happen.
Yeah.
And it's so important because it keeps employees motivated, and it really reduces the likelihood of turnover, or you can predict the turnover.
Yes.
Is the other thing it helps with. Yeah. So next is accountability and firing bad fits. I did a talk on firing. It was great. But this is huge. We keep holding on to employees that we know that don't fit our values because they may be a good technician or I'm short-staffed. And holding employees accountable and then removing those that are not a good fit are so important because it ensures that we keep a positive and productive work environment, eliminating all those negative influences.
And I can already sense, even through this recording, that people are tensing up right now.
Yes.
Just hearing the word firing. I want to just put it out there and say that, firing is not always, it's not always a negative. And just, again, kind of leaning into what you have spoken about many times in the past is there can be good experiences that come from it. And you could control the amount of positive outcomes that happen through letting someone go.
And the truth is they need to be set free to go find their true culture, like the good fit for them. Maybe they don't have the courage to quit. Mm-hmm. I always say promote them to a different company because ours is not the fit for them.
Yeah.
It's not a negative. It's not, I think a lot of us don't fire people because it's a reflection of us. Like we hired them and now we feel like, we feel like we failed.
Yeah.
And that's not true. And as fast as our companies are growing, we're going to evolve out of people, and our culture will evolve, and our companies will evolve, and we'll evolve out of them and into some. And so firing and accountability is so huge, right? If they don't like accountability, they're probably going to get fired eventually.
Yeah.
But how do you hold them accountable, right? How do you do this? So one great tip is have weekly numbers for them to be accountable to. Right? Weekly scorecards, 4 weeks in the red. We need to have a talk. If you're not meeting those numbers, drop that issue or that scorecard down to something to discuss on that weekly meeting. But have every single person be accountable to a number. Easy start. So with our field staff, they're accountable. Like we switch it up. Sometimes it's the quality score we're expecting or the response rate to the quality survey. And they're like, how do we get that up? You simply ask your customer when you're at the home, say, hey, we're going to send you a survey. Please fill it out. And so it doesn't matter the position. Everyone can have a level of accountability. But the other thing that this does is it helps them know that they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
It helps them know what the performance metric is.
That has been probably one of the most eye-opening experiences for me is for so many people to say that they want to know. They want those numbers because they want to know when they're doing something right. Because otherwise, how do you even know if what you're doing in the job that you're required to do, if you're even doing it right? And then doubts creeps into their mind. They could be phenomenal A player, but they feel like a D player just because they don't have something in front of them saying that, yep, you're good, you're great, good job.
Yeah. So some key takeaways to take away from this one, and this is a huge one. Culture you will always be working on this.
Yeah.
Is just the importance of it. Always keeping it front of mind, because that's going to contribute to our turnover or the retention of our company, right? You want to make sure too that you have a system or strategies to your meeting rhythms, your communications. How do they expect to communicate with us? How do we hold people accountable? Have those systems or processes in place. And I am talking as simple as a piece of paper, writing it down. Please don't go buy another software. Because you cannot use a software to create a process. You have to have the process first. Then I go find the software that helps me implement it.
Yeah.
I've said that for years because of my organizing side. People are like, what's the best software?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, first you need the process. Then you find the software.
I'm going to give one extra tip here. And there's another process after the point of letting someone go. And that's the process of how do you address this to the company, and in what way, what fashion, that many people they take for granted, but I think is probably one of the biggest points to make, because the way you address one of those concerns, if you do let someone go, again, the goal being to improve the retention, improve the culture, improve the company as a whole, it could put a sour note in somebody's mouth.
Well, because they don't know everything. The other employees have no idea what's going on, that maybe that other person was on a PIP plan, like a performance improvement plan, or they've been written up, or they called out. And so they're just seeing what's happening, like that person signing off in Slack or WhatsApp and like, bye. But making sure that you have a strategy for how do I address this as a company?
Yes. And having done those processes and seeing how it can work, we've seen some great things or great outcomes come from that, where we've even seen, B players turn into A players overnight.
Yes.
And you would have never known. It's like the weight's off of their shoulders. They're like, oh my goodness. And the way that you position it and talk about it then gets them fired up to really take hold.
Yeah. So again, back to some key takeaways. Focus on retaining those good fits. Look at evolving the ones that are either coaching them up or coaching them out. And then you really want to track and analyze your regrettable turnover. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about and understand and address what that means. So regrettable turnover versus regrettable turnover is like, we dropped the ball. We messed up. This was our fault. We didn't hold up our end of the deal. You're going to learn a lot if you track your turnover, like regular turnover versus regrettable turnover. And how can we improve as a company? It's going to tell you some underlying issues that could be like brewing in your company. And so it's very insightful. And then you want to ensure that, again, your culture and the experience is expanding throughout the entire company, and that you're embodying it as the owner, and you're living and breathing it all the time. And it's what you talk about all the time. So hopefully this was insightful. This was great. Again, this is our Profit Flywheel for recruiting, right? We covered in these videos, we covered an intro video. And then from there, we did impressions and clicks, your apply starts, your actual applies, the people who passed your application, people who scheduled, showed, offered, accepted, and retain. And this creates the Profit Flywheel for recruiting. Because as a business owner, I know if we get any of these steps wrong, hiring is the most expensive part of our business when we do it wrong. When we do it right, it's amazing. One of my technicians they can earn an annual revenue to the company of about $90,000.
Yep.
One of my great friends owns a cleaning company in Chicago. She said she did hers in $110,000. Her top technicians earn. So whether you're in cleaning or lawn care or commercial cleaning, this is huge for your company to look at, to measure. It's going to tell you where you're missing that spot. Like, where are you missing the boat? Because through these steps, you're going to see the gaps start to show, and you're going to also see where are you doing great at. Like, oh my gosh, we're great here at shows or applies. And it's going to tell you what to focus on at different times, because it is a flywheel and it moves. It's not static. We will have to look at this process. To me, I would say like once a quarter during your quarterly meeting to review How are we holding up against our competitors? What do we look like? What's our turnover rate? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What's the next process we need to work on? So mark your calendars so that you can do a quarterly audit of your recruiting process, because again, recruiting and hiring is people, and that's not static. It changes and it evolves with the economy, with the labor market, with the seasons, with the holidays. It changes. It's ever evolving.
And that's a great point. And even through talking through all of these videos here, the percentages that we gave as examples, they will change and evolve over time as well. So don't hold that as absolute truth. But again, that's a great reference point to just make sure that you're at least on track and to figure out what's the biggest opportunity for you.
Awesome. So again, my name is Libby and I am the founder and owner of WootRecruit. I also own a cleaning company. And this is Chris DeLucien, our CTO of WootRecruit, also my husband. But we wanted to bring you this Profit Flywheel for recruiting to teach others, besides WootRecruit customers, how can you improve your recruiting process so that at the end of the day, it doesn't affect your bottom line. And if we're going to give some freebies in the comments or in the show notes, so make sure you pop down and look for our hiring goal calculator, our recruiting toolbox, and some other goodies that we're going to give away for free. And if you ever need any help with your recruiting, you can always reach out to us at any time. And we're happy to see if we could partner together with our WootRecruit process. Again, hope you enjoyed this series. I'd love for you guys to put in the comments what you liked. What was your favorite video? Maybe what do you need to work on? And make sure you subscribe as well.